Well, Bo, over here, other side, right here.
Got you.
Obviously, a big marquee event, UFC 300, is upon us. So I guess what are the emotions now that fight camp's over? You just got to focus on weighing in and fighting.
Yeah, now is the least fun part and then the most fun part, right? All rolled into a week. So I feel really excited to compete. Obviously, it's been a little bit of time since I was able to get in the cage, and so I'm just very grateful, very appreciative of this opportunity. And I think, I'm just going to go out there and be myself and put on an amazing performance.
Well, you had mentioned it. It's been a while since we had seen you. Were you expecting a call sooner, or do you think they were trying to hold you for like a big event like this?
Well, it was part of my plan to take a little bit of time off. At that point last year, with my last fight, I had taken 5 fights in 365 days and just been on basically a year's worth of training camps. And I wanted to take some time and focus on my development, and training for a fight and just training to get better and improve are a little different. And so I think it made sense. And then when I was looking at the timeline for what events were coming up, this fit in perfectly with that plan.
Well, I know you famously said, you want to be on pay-per-view main cards, but I guess people were a little surprised given the amount of marquee names at UFC 300 that you were still on the pay-per-view. So were you surprised that they put you above guys like Yuri and Alex and everything?
Yeah, I didn't expect it. I think that it's a big honor for me to be where I'm at on the card, and just to be on this card in general, because there's so many amazing fighters and so many guys that have a ton of experience and who are just doing big things in the sport. And so I feel like it says a lot about me, about the UFC and our plans, and I think they align. And I think that I'm just grateful to be where I'm at, and grateful to have this platform to go do my thing.
When they brought Cody Brunge's name to you, another guy with an extensive wrestling background, not at your level, but he obviously wrestled for most of his life. So what did you make of his name when they approached you? Yeah,
I was excited for that. I think that just getting to compete against another wrestler is a new challenge for me. Everybody that I've fought thus far, hasn't had a wrestling background, and so this will, I think, present different problems for me to solve in the fight, and that's going to be a big part of my development, is just continuing to get different looks and improve and feel different things in the cage. So, hopefully he can give me a little resistance in there, and I'll figure it out.
He was in here earlier, and he said he was glad he was getting you now. Like, he thinks right now is the perfect time to get you because you haven't developed quite as some of the other fighters in the division. Do you think he's kind of overlooking you, or is he just kind of talking that to kind of sell the fight?
I think that makes perfect sense what he's saying, because I'm only going to improve and get better, right? Like, I think if it were up to him, he would have loved to get me like a year ago, right? So everybody knows that my capability and what I was able to do in wrestling, and I think they obviously assume that that'll translate over to fighting, and it has so far. So for him to say that, I think makes perfect sense, and I think for me it's just continually improving and moving forward. And my goal isn't to win. I obviously want to win this fight, but my goal is to be the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the world and UFC champion. So, this is a part of that process.
And you were obviously in the headlines for, your comments about Jordan, Burrow, and everything. So I guess what's the wrestling community reaction to that and the reception to your comments?
Yeah, it's interesting. I definitely expected the wrestling community to be maybe taken aback by it or a little surprised, just given, his standing in the community. But I've gotten a lot of support from people that are actually like in the community, that wrestlers, coaches, people that are in it, not just fans that are kind of watching from the outside. And everybody is kind of on the same page as me. So that was interesting to me. It's not something that I expected, but I just pretty much was frustrated with what he had to say and let that be known.
The final one from me. Can I get your thoughts on the main event between Alex and Jamal, and then the BMF fight between Justin and Max?
Yeah, both fights are going to be amazing contests. I think those guys are extremely skilled in what they do, and looking forward as a fan of the sport to watching both those fights. Definitely, I would say like kind of dream matchups, if you will, for guys that go out there and they're going to get after it, and they've just put on amazing shows. So, I'll be tuning in probably from home at that point. But excited to watch those fights.
Bo, right here. You talked about how the UFC is positioning you on this card, what Cody says about your potential and things like that. It seems like everyone knows what you can be capable of, and maybe the only thing that could stop you is yourself at this point. So how do you keep grounded and make sure you're training properly, dieting, focusing, all these things, and not letting any of the outside stuff seep in?
I think it starts with why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm not doing any of this for outside attention or for money or any of this external kind of stimulus, external reward. It's all because I love it. At the end of the day, I could probably go do a lot of different things, a lot of things that are easier than being an MMA fighter. And but this is what I'm choosing to do. And so obviously take that very seriously. I'm very motivated, very disciplined. And that's probably a testament to the people that I've been able to be around, coaches, teammates, my dad, people that have had a positive impact on me and been good examples for me. And yeah, basically, to sum it up, I do this because I love it and not for any of the extracurricular stuff.
Is it important, though, that you keep, I guess, setting new goalposts and keep finding ways to be pushed? Because, complacency can be like the worst thing for fighters in the sport. Do you see that and know that there needs to be collaboration with the UFC to continue this in a way that keeps you focused with everything you just said there?
I think that, yeah, there's definitely collaboration. I feel like when I look at the UFC and myself, I see us as we're on the same team. We want the same things. And so, that's something that I think has been a really positive relationship thus far, and we've been aligned. And, I think that will continue moving forward. That being said, I feel like I'm fighting better and better guys every single fight, which is good. It's what I want, and I want to continue, fighting better guys. And, soon enough, I'll be fighting ranked guys, fighting guys, for the belt and stuff like that. So, yeah.
You can find yourself anywhere between minus 2,000 and minus 3,000. Good value?
Yeah, I think the math checks out to me. If I'm being honest, any number on me is basically just free money at this point. So I have had some people asking me, predictions and things like that for the fight, and it's really tough to predict the fight, but I know I'm going to win. That's the only thing I'm really sure of.
Hey, Bo, and just sort of piggybacking on that, do you feel like you have the most pressure on the card because of the betting odds, right? You look at some of the other fights, no one's like a minus 2,000 favorite. Do you feel like you have the most pressure?
Pressure is such an interesting thing because it's really just all of your perception, and all the pressure that I feel comes from internal. It comes from myself, and I put pressure on myself because I love what I do, I care about it, and I train really hard, and really that's all I feel. I think that my coach at Penn State, Cael Sanderson, he's talked to us about pressure a lot, and to sum it up, it's okay to be nervous. It's okay to feel pressure. It's just not good to be nervous about that. So for me, I know I'm going to feel this pressure because I choose that. And I'm the one that signs the contract that decides that I'm going to go out there and fight, and I do it because I love it.
Who did you get to work with for this camp leading into the fight with Brundage?
Fortunately, this camp, I've had a lot of really good training partners. Obviously, my two guys at home in Pennsylvania are Anthony Kassar and Musa Al-Suleimani, both national champions, one in wrestling, one in boxing, so high-level guys, and two of my best friends. So those are guys that I'm working with on a daily basis. And then I was also grateful that I was able to go down to Florida, train with some really high-level guys down there at American Top Team. Johnny Eblin, Marvin Vittori, are a few names that I was able to get some rounds in with. And so really, feel like I had a really good camp and feel well prepared.
Does that give you confidence, obviously, working with a guy like Eblin, who, Bellator champ and, competing at a high level? Vittori's a ranked middleweight. Is that a good way to kind of gauge where you are in the division?
Yeah, I think so. For me, development is very important. It's important for me to push myself against the best guys. And I think that, obviously it's cliche, but people talk about, train hard and fight easy. And that is the way I see it, though. That's been the way I've seen it since I was a kid. And I always, traveled to get the best training partners when I was in middle school and high school, and then going to Penn State for college. Obviously, I had the best training partners in the world. And, I'm taking that same mindset into MMA, and I want to work with the best guys, best coaches, and I feel fortunate and grateful that they're, wanting to work with me as well.
And if all goes well, like you're saying, and you get a finish, and it's another impressive performance, is this sort of the last fight you think before we start getting you to fight maybe like a ranked opponent or like a more notable opponent in the division? Do you feel like this is kind of the last one? It's
possible. I think that that's a conversation between myself and the UFC, and we'll figure out what we want to do. But I'm not in a rush. I'm only 28 years old. I just turned 28, and I got a lot of more time to continue to improve and develop and get better. But again, I've said it before. I'll say it again. The goal is to be the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the world. And I want to continue to fight better and better guys. But at the same time, focus on the improvement aspect of it. Like, I need to get better to get to where I want to be. And so whatever the development looks like and the process, then that's what it'll be.
And just last one for me, Khamzat Chimaev now looks like he's a mainstay at 185. He's fighting Robert Whitaker coming up. I know this is down the line, but you got to be a bit excited about that potential matchup just with both of your styles.
Definitely excited about that matchup. I think obviously Khamzat's a little bit ahead of me in terms of position in the organization and rankings, but I feel like that's a matchup that a lot of people want to see. And that fight with Whitaker is going to be an amazing fight. Two guys that are competing at a very high level, and I'm looking forward to watching it, and definitely looking forward to that fight down the line.
Hey, Bo.
When you were 8 years old, you told your parents that you wanted cauliflower ear. Is that a moment where you're going to dedicate your whole life to the world of combat?
I think, it was. I think that I was just around it so much. My granddad wrestled in college. He was a wrestling coach. My dad wrestled his whole life, was a wrestling coach. And so it was just something that's what you're around, right? And the guys that I looked up to were high school wrestlers, college wrestlers, and they had it. And so for me, that was just my path. And again, there was other things I could have done, and it was never like something I was forced into, but I felt like it was my choice and what I loved. And I'll be involved in combat sports forever. Even when I'm done competing, I think that I'll coach at some capacity or be involved somehow.
And touching up again on the main card placement, I know you're probably more aware than anyone that some people weren't really too fan of that. So does that add an extra chip on your shoulder or motivation to go out there and make an even bigger statement?
It's interesting because I guess first off, it's not really me that decides that. I know that a lot of people, pull up the quote of me saying like, I'm a main card guy and stuff like that. But I feel like that at the end of the day, the UFC made a business decision, and it made sense for me to be on the main card. That being said, as far as the opinions of others, they're not super relevant to me. I feel like those are going to ebb and flow, and I'm, confident that in a year or two, once I've established myself more and built my reputation in this sport more, that people will think it's a no-brainer and look back on it, and it'll make a lot more sense.
Last one for me, a fellow fighter under the same management, Ilya Topuria, had his big title win in Anaheim a couple of months ago. What did you make of that performance?
So happy for Ilya. He's a guy that I have been watching for a long time, and just you could see it as a student of the sport. I could see it coming almost, just with his skills and his mindset and being able to be around him. You could tell that he just had a championship aura around him. Probably even before he got into the UFC, and so. I was so happy to kind of see his dreams be realized, and it's definitely motivational for me seeing somebody come up and achieve his goals. That it's now I feel like I'm the next guy to go do that.
Hey, Bo. I was wondering, how has being a father changed any of your mindset and just that approach to competition now, just having that proverbial something more to fight for?
It's interesting. I think that for me, I've always been very competitive. I'm always somebody that I'll do whatever I need to do in the competition to win. And, having a son, I feel like more than anything, I just want to be a good dad to him. I don't think it really gives me any extra motivation. I already feel fully motivated internally, but I definitely feel excited just to spend time with him and get to know him as he grows and gets older. And I want to be a good fighter, and I have big goals within fighting, but it's more important for me to be a good dad. So whatever that looks like, it could be outside fighting. That's my priority.
Two-parter. What was it like taking him to his first wrestling match? And two, have you already thought about what college you'd like to make him an offer?
That's funny. It was a really cool, kind of surreal moment to be able to bring him to a Penn State match at, I guess at that point he would have been, 2 months old, and just a cool experience. Obviously, I had a lot of great memories at Rec Hall in the Penn State arena, and to bring him there was special. And as far as him going to school or what he's going to do, I think that I would love it if he chose to do something different than me, just because I feel like he can be his own person and figure out what he likes. And if it's wrestling, then that's great. I'll obviously support him, but I definitely want to leave that up to him and let him figure that out.
You mentioned Penn State. Real quickly, what are your thoughts on them breaking the tournament record scoring points that's been since like 1997?
Yeah, amazing. I think the team this year at Penn State was extremely special. A lot of special individuals, comprised that team. Had two. Obviously, you mentioned the team scoring record, but also two four-time NCAA champions in the same year, which there's probably no way that's ever going to happen again. And so, for me, I'm just grateful to be able to be around those guys and still be in there and training with these guys on a daily basis. They obviously helped me a ton in keeping my wrestling sharp, and I'm grateful that I just get to be around high-level people. It's something that I feel like, is a big blessing.
Bo, can I get one more? You are very dialed in. I heard you on the Rogan podcast. You're very regimented, very wise beyond your years with your schedule and your training and all of that. Cody was in here. He was saying that some people around him, they said that you're like the Jesus Christ of MMA. I believe that as you keep climbing the ladder, people will try to pick at that cool, calm psyche. One, what do you think about that? And two, can you walk on water?
Well, I definitely, I don't love that comparison as a Christian. I think it's, I don't really feel like that about myself at all. I think that I'm just trying to do my best out here, and I'm a little confused by the question, I guess, but I feel like,
Are you prepared for people to, as you're climbing the ladder, to pick at your
Gotcha.
your calm, cool demeanor?
Yeah, I feel fine, with people saying whatever they want to say. Of course, people are going to try to get a rise out of me or, say things that to throw me off, but I'm just trying to go out there and accomplish what I want to accomplish, and however they want to go about it is really irrelevant to me. It makes no difference, and people want to sell the fight, people want to build the fight up, and I get that, but for me, no matter what's said in the lead up or the fight week, we're going to get locked in the cage, so that's what I'm focused on, and anything that is important will come to light right in that moment.